We pray for abundance, but we don't ask for the discipline to handle it. We cry out for love, but we never ask to be shaped into someone who can truly give love, not just receive it. We want the prize, but we overlook the process. What if the test you're going through right now isn't a punishment? What if it's preparation? What if every obstacle is actually a question from life asking, are you ready for what you've been asking for? See, when life gets heavy, when things feel like they're falling apart, that's usually when something powerful is actually coming together. But in a different way than we expect. Most people see testing as something to escape. But testing is where the foundation of your blessing is poured. Because if you get what you want before you're ready, it won't bless you, it'll break you. Think about this. You don't hand a brand new sports car to someone who's never driven before. It's not because you don't trust them, it's because you care. You don't want them to hurt themselves. That's exactly what life does. It withholds not out of cruelty, but out of care. The delay is not denial, it's divine protection. The testing phase is where you learn the skills, the mindset, the emotional maturity, so that when the opportunity shows up, you don't fumble it. You hold it, you honor it, and you grow it. We've all seen it. People who get success too fast, money they weren't prepared for, relationships they weren't ready to nurture, fame they didn't yet have the emotional grounding to carry. And what happens? They lose it, they self-sabotage, not because they're bad people, but because the weight of the blessing exceeded the strength of their character. The test is designed to give you that strength. I know it's not easy. I know there are nights when you're asking, why is this happening to me? But what if you asked, what is this preparing me for? That shift in perspective, that's where growth lives. That's where transformation begins. Pain becomes power when we assign purpose to it. Struggle becomes sacred when we realize it's shaping us. This is not just motivation, this is reality. Think about the strongest people you know, the ones who radiate calm, clarity, compassion. Do you really think they got there without being tested? No, they've been in the fire, they've been refined by it. They've been bent, broken, and built again. And here's the truth, you're in that fire right now. That moment where it feels like nothing's working, where every door feels shut, where you're questioning if you're even worthy of what you're praying for. That moment is sacred. It's where your future self is being formed. Don't run from it, don't numb it. Don't distract yourself from it, lean into it, because that test, that's your teacher, and the lesson it's teaching. It's how to become the version of you who can carry what you've been asking for. The universe, God, life, whatever name you give it, it listens more to your character than your words. Anyone can ask, anyone can wish, but few are willing to become. Becoming means shedding the old. It means facing the fear, the insecurity, the parts of you that aren't aligned with the blessing you want. And that's hard, that's painful, that's the test. But it's also beautiful, because every layer you strip away reveals more of your truth, more of your power. You were never meant to live a small, limited life. You were never meant to shrink. But greatness requires pressure. Just like a diamond needs it to be formed, so do you. The test is pressure. The blessing is the result. And sometimes the blessing isn't even the thing you thought you wanted. Sometimes the blessing is becoming the person you were always meant to be. Stronger, wiser, kinder, fiercer, more alive. So the next time you find yourself in a moment of struggle, when it's uncomfortable, when it's dark, when it feels like nothing is happening, remind yourself you are not being punished. You are being prepared, because before God blesses you, He tests you. There's something powerful, something almost unbearable about silence. You pray, you cry, You beg and still nothing. You're showing up, you're doing the work, you're keeping the faith, and yet it feels like heaven has gone quiet on you. And in that silence, doubt creeps in. You start asking questions like, am I doing something wrong? Or has God forgotten me? Or worse, was any of this ever real? But what if I told you silence doesn't mean absence? What if that quiet you feel isn't rejection, but invitation? What if it's not a void, but a space? A space where you're meant to meet the deepest part of yourself. A space where your faith, your patience, your resilience aren't just tested, they're formed. Let's be honest, we're addicted to noise. We want instant feedback, constant validation. We want the sign, the confirmation, the next step now. But life doesn't grow us through convenience. It grows us through challenge and silence. That's one of the deepest challenges you'll ever face. Because it forces you to look inward, to confront who you are without the applause, without the results, without the visible reward. It strips away your distractions and leaves you with your truth, and that's exactly where God does his most powerful work. Think about it. The seed doesn't grow on the surface. It grows underground, hidden, unseen, in silence. That's where roots are built. That's where strength is formed. If the roots don't go deep, the tree won't last. And it's the same with you. If your confidence, your identity, your peace are all rooted in things going your way, they'll collapse the second a storm hits. But if they're rooted in who you've become through the silence, you become unshakable. This season of silence, it's sacred. It's where you stop relying on proof and start relying on faith. It's where you learn to move forward even when you don't feel like it, to keep believing even when there's no visible evidence that it's working. That's what real growth looks like. Not shiny, not loud, but deep, invisible, transformational. And here's what most people miss. Silence is a mirror. It reflects back everything we've been avoiding, our insecurities, our fears, our impatience. But that's the point. You can't heal what you won't face. You can't elevate while still clinging to old beliefs that no longer serve who you're becoming. The silence brings it all to the surface, not to torment you, but to free you. Most of the people you admire, the strong ones, the grounded ones, the peaceful ones, they've been through that silence. They've sat in the unknown. They've cried in the dark. They've wrestled with questions that had no answers. And they emerged not because someone rescued them, but because they met themselves in the silence. They learned to hear their own voice. They learned to trust their own soul. And they learned that even in the absence of a sign, they were still being led. Because make no mistake, just because God is silent doesn't mean he's not working. Just because life isn't loud right now doesn't mean it's not moving. The biggest shifts often happen quietly. The greatest breakthroughs begin as whispers, and those whispers can only be heard when you stop shouting for answers and start listening with your spirit. The truth is, your character is being developed right now in ways that wouldn't be possible if everything was going according to your plan. And you may not see it yet, but this season is shaping you to be the person who's ready for what's coming. Because when the blessing finally shows up, you'll look back at this silence and realize that's where the real transformation happened. That's where you became grounded. That's where you let go of needing constant validation. That's where you learned that even when the world is silent, your soul still speaks. And that voice, that's the one you can trust. This isn't just about waiting. It's about who you become while you wait. It's about building faith that doesn't shake when the answers are delayed. It's about cultivating a peace that doesn't depend on conditions. It's about knowing that the silence isn't the end, it's the in-between. And in the in-between, you're not being abandoned, you're being prepared. So if you're in that place right now, that silent place, hold on, breathe, go deeper, don't run from it. Lean into it, because the silence you're hearing isn't the absence of a blessing. It's the sound of your spirit growing strong enough to carry it. Because before God blesses you, He tests you. You ever notice how we all ask for more love, more success, more freedom, but very few of us stop to ask, am I ready to carry what I'm asking for? That's the part most people miss. It's not just about receiving the blessing. It's about being able to handle the blessing, because blessings aren't light. They're heavy, they come with weight, with responsibility, with pressure, and if you're not strong enough, if your foundation isn't solid, that blessing can crush you. That's why the test always comes before the gift. Life doesn't test you to torment you. It tests you to train you. Every challenge you face is building something inside of you that the blessing is going to require. And if that character, that internal strength isn't there yet, then the test isn't over. Not because you're being punished, but because life is too intelligent to give you something that would destroy you. Think about it. You wouldn't hand a sword to a child and send them into battle. You'd train them. You'd make sure they're disciplined, focused, mature enough to use it for the right reasons. It's the same with the things we're asking for in life. You want the relationship, but are you emotionally grounded enough to show up with love, not ego? You want the business, but are you disciplined enough to lead through adversity, and not just when things are going your way? You want to impact millions, but are you humble enough to not let your influence become your identity? That's what the test is doing. It's building that kind of strength inside of you. And make no mistake, character is strength. Not just the ability to show up when it's easy, but the ability to stay grounded when it's not, to keep your integrity when no one's watching, to say no when it would be easier to say yes, to show up with heart when it would be easier to shut down. So many people sabotage their own blessing because they didn't develop the character to match the calling. They wanted the outcome, but they resisted the process. But here's the truth, the process is the preparation. You don't build strength in moments of ease. You build it under pressure, under resistance. Look at anyone who's carrying a great responsibility, a leader, a parent, a teacher, a healer. Their strength didn't come from the applause. It came from the trials, from the moments they had to keep moving when everything inside them wanted to quit, from the moments they had to lead when they were scared, from the moments they had to love when they were hurting. That's where strength is forged. That's where character is born. You see, we live in a world that celebrates results, but often ignores the resilience it takes to get there. We see the stage, the success, the spotlight, but we rarely see the hours, the heartbreak, the hard choices behind it. The blessing doesn't just show up because you asked for it. It shows up when you've become the person who can sustain it. That's the difference between a gift that comes and goes and a gift that grows, and the only thing that makes it sustainable is character. You may feel like the weight you're carrying right now is too much. You may feel like the test is lasting too long. But hear me, that weight is building your capacity. That resistance is forming a version of you that you haven't even fully met yet. And when the blessing shows up, when the door opens, when the opportunity lands in front of you, you'll realize it's not luck. It's not chance, it's the result of everything you carried when no one was watching. Everything you overcame when quitting would have been easier. Everything you chose when no one was there to applaud you for it. The blessing is coming, but it's not coming to the person you used to be. It's coming to the person you're becoming, and that's what the test is for, Not to delay you, not to deny you, but to develop you, to stretch your patience, strengthen your mind, sharpen your spirit. So when the blessing arrives, it doesn't just sit in your life, it flourishes. Because before God blesses you, He tests you. You ever notice how we live in a world that glorifies speed? Everything's about how fast. How fast can you get rich? How fast can you find love? How fast can you get the results? We've been trained to believe that if something isn't happening now, it's never going to happen. But that's not how real life works. That's not how growth works. And it's definitely not how blessings work. Because sometimes the delay isn't rejection. It's alignment. Sometimes the reason you haven't received what you're praying for isn't because it's not meant for you, it's because you're still becoming the person who can hold it. You're still building the strength, the wisdom, the emotional foundation to sustain it, and rushing that process would only sabotage it. We've been taught to see delay as denial, but the truth is, delay is often divine timing. You're not being left behind, you're being positioned. You're not being overlooked, you're being refined. That space between the seed and the fruit, that's where transformation lives. And yeah, it's frustrating, it's uncomfortable, it makes you question everything, but that's part of the process. That's where patience becomes a superpower. See, patience isn't just about waiting. Anybody can wait. Patience is about how you wait. It's about what kind of energy you bring to the waiting. Are you anxious, bitter, frustrated, or are you faithful, focused, and preparing? Because the person who prepares during the waiting season is the person who walks into the blessing ready to maximize it, not just receive it. And here's the truth a lot of people don't want to hear. If the thing you're praying for showed up right now, you might not be able to handle it. And that's not a bad thing, that's just real. The relationship you want. It requires a version of you who knows how to love without controlling. The business you dream of. It requires a version of you who can lead through failure, not just success. The platform you want. It requires a version of you who's grounded enough to not be consumed by praise or criticism. So God delays, not to hurt you, but to protect you. Because the worst thing that could happen is getting what you asked for before you're ready. That's how blessings turn into burdens. That's how dreams become disasters. And if you look back at your life, I bet there were moments where you were grateful the thing you wanted didn't happen when you thought it should. Why? Because with perspective, you realize you weren't ready. You didn't have the tools. You didn't have the clarity. You didn't even have the right people around you. The delay was grace, even if it didn't feel like it at the time. And that's why divine timing is so important. Because when the right thing shows up at the right time, it doesn't feel forced. It feels flowed. It doesn't feel chaotic. It feels clear. There's an ease to it, not because it's easy, but because you're aligned. You're ready. You've done the inner work. You've let go of what you needed to release. You've said yes to becoming instead of just receiving. So if you're in a season right now where it feels like nothing's moving, nothing's happening, like your prayers are just floating into the void, don't give up. That space of not yet is not wasted. It's sacred. It's where your future is being constructed in you. And if you can hold the tension without rushing to relieve it, you'll walk into the next chapter with something most people never develop: depth. And that depth, that's what allows you to not just get the blessing, but to keep it, to grow it, to multiply it. Because now, it's not just something you've received, it's something you're rooted in. And that's the kind of blessing that lasts. That doesn't get shaken when life gets hard. That doesn't crumble under pressure. That's the kind of blessing worth waiting for. So trust the timing. Trust the delay. Trust that what's meant for you isn't being taken from you, it's being prepared for you. And you're being prepared for it, not in your timeline, not on your terms, but in the exact moment when you're strong enough, clear enough, whole enough to carry it with grace. Because before God blesses you, He tests you.